When tradition becomes a trap. Many grew up hearing phrases like the early bird catches the worm, or save as if you'll live for 1,000 years. But what if those truths no longer apply the same way today? Solomon would invite you to reflect. Not all tradition is wisdom, and not all wisdom is ancient. Work hard and everything will come. What if effort isn't enough? Since we were little, we were told repeatedly that hard work was the magic key to success. And of course, working is necessary. But what if that advice is no longer enough? How many people do you know who work hard day and night, yet barely survive? Some have 3 jobs but no time for themselves, no energy to think about the future. Where is the prosperity when your effort only covers basic expenses and you anxiously await the next month? Solomon, with all his wisdom, would not despise work. But he would also tell you that effort without direction can be a useless waste. That plowing land without seeds, or sowing without knowing the season, is a form of self-deception. The wise person not only works, they also observe the ground where they sow. Today more than ever, prosperity requires more than just sweat. It requires vision. It requires strategy. It requires knowing your talents, the context you're in, and where you truly want to go. Because not all effort is fruitful. Sometimes we keep working hard at something that no longer bears fruit, out of fear of change. And here's the blind spot of traditional advice. It taught you to resist, but not to adapt, to persist, but not to question. And modern life demands both, because the world has changed, and if you don't change with it, you'll be left behind, even if you work harder than ever. The key question is not, are you working hard, but are you working in the right direction? Does your effort bring you closer to the life you want, or just keep you busy? Don't spend, save everything. Fear disguised as virtue. For centuries, the advice to save has been revered as a symbol of prudence. Save every coin, because you never know what might happen, our grandparents told us. And yes, saving is sensible, until it becomes a mental prison, because there's a subtle line between financial wisdom and chronic fear of loss. Many people don't prosper not because they earn little, but because they have a scarcity mindset. They live as if everything will run out, as if the future is an enemy to be feared. They save every last penny, but don't allow themselves to enjoy, invest, or sow. They cling to their money as if it were their only source of security, and so they end up slaves to saving. Solomon would tell you something different. He observed that true wealth is not what is retained, but what moves with purpose. The grain hidden in the granary feeds no one. Money that never circulates creates no opportunities, no growth, no abundance for others or for yourself. Saving without purpose can be as destructive as spending without measure. Prosperity does not flourish in dry ground due to fear. It flourishes where there is wisdom to discern when to save and when to let go. Sometimes a well-placed investment transforms your life. Sometimes an act of generosity opens doors that all the gold in the world couldn't buy. Saving out of habit, without questioning what for, may be holding back your growth. It may be preventing you from taking risks, moving forward, dreaming. It's not about living lavishly, but about understanding that money, like energy, needs flow. It needs purpose. It needs trust in life. Because whoever saves out of fear ends up losing from within. 3. Get a good job and stay there. The myth of security. For generations, this was one of the biggest family commandments. Find a stable job, hold on to it, and don't let it go for anything. And at the time, it made sense. In an era where the economy was more predictable and jobs lasted decades, that path offered something everyone desired: security. But today, does it still work? The current reality is different. Companies no longer guarantee stability. Technology changes at a dizzying pace. Entire professions disappear in a matter of years. And many people, for fear of losing security, remain for decades in jobs that no longer nourish them, that steal their energy and dry up their soul. Solomon would wisely observe, "The river that does not flow rots. So too the soul that does not dare." It's not about despising a fixed job. It's about asking yourself if you're there for purpose or out of fear. Are you growing or simply surviving? Does your current job honor your talents, your values, your evolution, or is it just a comfortable zone that has become a prison? Today, prospering often involves breaking the mold, exploring new income streams, learning skills that weren't necessary before, reinventing yourself at 40, 50, or 60 if necessary. The new labor market rewards flexibility, creativity, and the ability to learn constantly. Clinging to a single place may seem sensible, but it can also be hindering your growth. Because there's something worse than not having external security. It's not having internal development. And sometimes, prosperity awaits you on paths that only open when you dare to leave the one you already know. Security is not in routine, but in your ability to adapt. 4. First the material, then the spiritual. The wrong order. First make sure you have money, then you'll have time to think about your soul. This idea is repeated as wise advice, but in reality, it can be one of the biggest traps of our time. because when the spirit is postponed, it almost always ends up being postponed forever. Many people live convinced that well-being comes from the outside, from salary, from the car, from the house, from goals achieved. But when they get there, with a full bank account and an empty schedule, they discover something unsettling. They still feel empty. They remain restless, lost, even depressed. How can this be? Solomon, who knew unimaginable riches, said it clearly. What good is it to fill your pockets if your soul remains empty? Peace, purpose, and internal direction are not luxuries for when you have time. They are the foundation from which everything else makes sense. If you build your life on materialism, you might advance quickly, but you might also collapse just as quickly. True prosperity is not just having, it's knowing who you are amidst everything you have. It's being able to lose something without losing yourself. It's being able to be in abundance or in scarcity, without that defining your worth. The mistake is in thinking that the spiritual is an extra. It's not. It's the foundation. A strong soul is not built when there's spare time, but when it becomes a priority. Because it is the soul that sustains your decisions, your relationships, your energy, even your prosperity. Investing in your inner core is not postponing success, it's ensuring that when it arrives, it doesn't destroy you. Because if you lack direction, even abundance can be a curse. 5. What matters is visible success. The trap of external recognition. We live in an era where appearing successful often matters more than actually being successful. Social media, digital applause, diplomas hanging on the wall, everything is designed to showcase achievements to the world. But what happens when the prosperity you project outwards doesn't match what you feel inside? Solomon, wise among the wise, subtly warned, the most valuable jewel does not shine, but it sustains the soul of the wise. Because true value is not always visible. Emotional balance, inner peace, clarity of purpose, these don't get likes, but they sustain your life. In contrast, the constant need for validation makes you dependent on external glances to feel that you are worth something. The traditional advice to be successful has often been distorted into, make everyone believe you are. But the truth is that an aligned life is not always noisy. Sometimes, the most prosperous decisions you make are invisible, giving up what drains you, setting healthy boundaries, following a path that few understand but your soul recognizes. The problem is not wanting to prosper. The problem is seeking prosperity based on what others expect. That turns you into an actor in your own life. You strive to impress, but inside you empty yourself. And that, in the long run, hurts more than any failure. Real success is silent. It's noticeable in how you sleep, in what you no longer need to prove, in what you enjoy without anyone seeing it. The question is not how much you have achieved. The question is, how much of yourself is left standing while you achieved all that? If your prosperity depends on applause, then it's not yours, it's theirs. Do what everyone else does. When the crowd leads to the abyss, in a hyper-connected world, following the majority seems the safest bet. If everyone is going in one direction, it must be the right path, right? But Solomon, with his eternal wisdom, would tell you the opposite. The wise person does not follow the crowd. They listen to their own compass. Many traditional pieces of advice on prosperity are based on generalized formulas. Study what makes money. Invest where everyone invests. Buy a house because it's what you're supposed to do. But what if those formulas no longer apply to your reality? What if that path has nothing to do with your purpose? Authentic prosperity rarely comes from blind imitation, because what works for others may not work for you. Your story, your talents, your wounds, and your dreams are unique. So, why follow others' paths as if they were universal? Following the crowd often disconnects you from yourself. You change your decisions for approval. You exchange your questions for borrowed certainties. You exchange your intuition for trendy statistics. And so, little by little, you move away from the most important voice, your own. The problem with doing what everyone does is that often, everyone is lost, or frustrated, or living lives that don't belong to them. There are people who have everything, but feel that none of it is theirs. And there are others who have given up the noise, the norm, the usual path, and have found a peace that the world cannot give or take away. True prosperity requires courage. Courage to question, to be different, to choose silence when everyone else is shouting, to sow at your own pace, even if others are already harvesting. The majority is not always right, and tradition, though respectable, is not always the wisest. Conclusion: don't repeat if it no longer serves you. Many repeat advice without ever stopping to ask, is this still true for me, or is it just inherited custom? We live surrounded by formulas, cliches, and paths laid out decades ago. But the world has changed. Life has changed, and so have you. Solomon, if he walked beside you today, wouldn't ask you to discard everything old. He would ask you to put it to the test, not to accept a truth, just because it sounds wise, but because it resonates with your soul. Taste its fruit, and if it sours your soul, seek another route. Tradition can be a guide, or a cage. It can give you structure, or it can trap your growth. It's up to you. There's advice that protects you, but there are also others that hold you back, that fill you with fear, guilt, and alien ideas that steer you away from your path. Prosperity is not a mold. It's not a standard formula.
It's a deeply personal quest. It's knowing what nourishes you, what expands you, what gives you meaning. It's having the courage to let go of what no longer vibrates with you. Even if you've followed it your whole life, the voice of the wise doesn't shout. It whispers, and often it hides beneath layers of noise, tradition, social expectation. But if you stop, if you breathe, if you dare to listen again, you might discover that true prosperity begins when you choose your own step, your own ground, your own sky. Don't repeat it if it no longer serves you. Don't follow it if it's no longer yours. Tradition is not a chain, it's a root, but you decide if that root bears fruit, or just ties you down. And now you tell me, what traditional advice have you followed out of fear, and are now ready to let go of?